Welcome to another FPL video. This is going to be the best wildcard team you can make for Game Week 5, and there are going to be some similarities with the Game Week 4 team, but a few differences. And of course, it's very important not to be reactionary and to think medium to long term when you're wildcarding, so be sure before activating the chip. And all the very best of luck to any of you who are considering to use it and who have used it already. But without further ado, let's head straight into the video and analyze the best options you can go for. As always, I must stress that there are different ways you can go about it, and I'm going to be talking about a few variations you can make to this team, but the kind of essence, the structure, the base is all there for you, and I think it would make a very good wildcard team. So in goal, I would still go for Sanchez, and then any 4 million keeper really. I've just got Steele, but Sanchez I think at 4.5 million is the pick of the bunch. Backman and Watford, they just aren't filling me with confidence, and then when you look at Raya from Brentford, the fixtures just aren't there, especially from game week 6 onwards. And you could arguably go for Jose Sarr from Wolves. That could be a good choice. And then maybe doubling up with him and Semedo, Marçal or Cody, whichever defender you pick. There's also Roman Saiz, who's got a lot of attacking potential. But yeah, other than Jose Sarr, I think Sanchez for 4.5 million is the best choice. Jose Sarr slightly more expensive. So Sanchez is my pick in goal, and I think it gives you a bit more money to invest in the rest of your team. In the defence, Livramento's there yet again, and he actually just kept a clean sheet against West Ham, which was very surprising, to be honest, but it happened. And Southampton can occasionally get a clean sheet, but I still don't trust them defensively. And they do face Man City next, but remember, you can always have him last on your bench if you are wildcarding and bringing him in. And then Marçal, he is the pick of the bunch in the Wolves defenders, along with, I'd say, Saiz and Semedo. If you have a bit more money, I think those two might offer a bit more consistent attacking threat. But Marçal at 4.6 million offers such great value. And of course, some of you may not be able to reach Semedo and Saiz, and you'd want to be investing 5 million or more on the elite defences like Chelsea, City and Liverpool. And speaking of those two teams, I've got Reece James and Trent, the two right backs, and you can always go for Rudiger if you want a bit more security of starts and safety. But Reece James, in terms of attacking potential, bonus points, when he starts, he's got a great chance of both. And I even fancy him against Spurs, to be honest. Same with Marcos Alonso, and I'll be talking about that in my preview video to come. And then Trent Alexander-Arnold, for me, he's almost a non-negotiable. He's the best defender at the moment. He creates so many chances. If you look at the league, actually, he's created the most chances of any player by some distance, and the next best is Grealish, but there's a huge difference between the two. And honestly, Trent has got set pieces, which obviously help him a lot, but even from open play, he's creating a lot of chances. Not the most from open play, but still plenty, and he is a right back after all. You know, we can't expect too much. What I would be slightly concerned about is with Harvey Elliott being injured, and hopefully he gets well soon, that might impact Trent a bit. Obviously, Trent has done it in years gone by without Harvey Elliott, but this season I think Trent has been even better because of players like Elliott. So it will be interesting to see what kind of impact it has, not only on his performances, but also on his FPL output. So that's something to keep an eye on, but I still think Trent has got great fixtures long term, and he is fixture proof. Liverpool can still keep some clean sheets against the elite teams. And then we have Ben White. Okay, so he's 4.4 million. I think around that price you can go for him or Duffy. And Arsenal have some very good fixtures all the way until Game Week 20 really, and he's a good rotation option with Livramento or Marçal, so I think White is still a good choice. There's also Tomiyasu at 4.5 million, who I think could be very interesting. He even nearly scored on his debut against Norwich, and he gets into some nice positions. Ben White will probably get more yellow cards, fewer bonus points, and you're going to be relying on the clean sheets most times, and Arsenal aren't the most reliable for that. But last season, they had the third best defence in terms of expected goals conceded, and even in terms of actual goals conceded. So Arsenal, I think, aren't that bad defensively. They obviously just came up against two of the best teams in the league, and also in Europe probably, in Game Weeks 2 and 3. Brentford was obviously a really poor showing from them, but they also had a lot of injuries and COVID cases, which didn't help matters at all. With players coming back, I think Arsenal will be stronger. They will still be quite weak compared to the top 6, top 4, but they're going to be better. They're not going to be bottom of the league and all this. Obviously, maybe you never know of Arsenal, but I would expect them to improve, and I think Ben White or Tomiyasu could be a good addition to your squad. Looking at the midfield, there's always this kind of debate about 4.5 million options. I'm of the same opinion as I was in my Game Week 4 wildcard team, and also just before that. Just take a 4.5 million midfielder, just pick them. And I think Brownhill, Sissoko, and potentially Gilmour are the best ones you can go for, with Brownhill and Sissoko being the standouts. And Brownhill, actually, he tends to have a lot of opportunities, for his price bracket. He almost scored against Everton the other day, and he's not really going to get you too many points, but he's just a decent option who's going to play most weeks, if not all, and he's got a bit of attacking threat compared to the others. So Brownhill is just there. Then in terms of the midfield now, I've got Salah in there. I think he's as close to essential as you can get. From the midfield, of course, there's also Bruno Fernandes, who is really good, but I think Salah is probably a no-brainer, and he's captainable in so many matches, including the upcoming ones, and Liverpool have good fixtures in the long run, so I like Salah. And I've also got Jota in there, because for the time being that Firmino is out, you'd want to have Jota, and you can always switch him about, maybe to a Greenwood or to a Ferran Torres. And of course, I talked about this in my team selection video. Greenwood was rested against Young Boys in the Champions League, so he could feature at the weekend. But for the time being, I think because Jota is pretty much assured of those starts, I think he's a great choice. And Palace up next, some good fixtures after that too. I think it's a really good way to cover Liverpool with Trent, Jota and Salah. Now with the rest of the midfield, you might say it's a bit weak considering you have Brownhill and now you have Demarai Gray and Rafinha, and that is understandable. And of course, there are different ways you can go about it. You can go for Traore or Sarr, and there's no set formula, and maybe you'd want to invest a bit more money into your midfield. And for example, with this team, we've got 0.9 million remaining, so you could actually upgrade Rafinha to Ferran Torres. That is obviously an option. So of course, I've just got Rafinha in there looking medium to long term. I think Leeds will pick up, maybe not too much, but you can always go for him and Bamford. Although maybe you'd probably want to be a bit cautious because Leeds haven't been showing too much promise. So if you don't want to go for Rafinha, that's completely fine. I'd probably recommend Ferran Torres. Let's wait and see how many minutes he gets in the Champions League, but I would expect Torres to play most games. Pep has been raving about him, and with good reason, and I think Ferran Torres is still a great choice when he starts and even coming off the bench. So up to you who you go for, Ferran Torres or Rafinha. I think they're both excellent choices. And then Demarai Gray. The reason why I've got him in there is because there's actually quite a few options kind of popping about around his price bracket. So let's say Everton have good fixtures up until game week 12, but then you look at Crystal Palace, their fixtures turn for the better around game week 9, and Gallagher has been absolutely exceptional. I've even marked him before his performance against Spurs. Of course, he was already doing the business in FPL, and he's got great underlying stats, Gallagher. He's pretty much in the top 2 or 3 for so many key components such as expected goals, shots in the box, for midfielders since his arrival, since he started in game week 2. So Gallagher's definitely one to keep an eye on, and you can have Demarai Gray for now. I don't expect him to continue his level of goal output, Demarai Gray, but I think Gallagher might be a bit more sustainable. And around game week 9, when the fixtures turn for Palace, you can move from Demarai Gray to Gallagher. I think that could be an exceptional choice, and you can always sometimes maybe play 5 at the back or 4 and then rotate between Gray and one of those kind of defenders I'm on about, or if not, move him on to Gallagher. So I think this team has a bit of flexibility about it. Of course, there's going to be one alternative I'm going to suggest towards the end, which I think you're going to have to be a bit more rigid with your formation if you want to accommodate this certain premium player I'm going to talk about very soon. And then let's look at the forwards now. Ronaldo is pretty much, at the moment, I wouldn't say essential, but once again, I just think he's one of the best options you can go for. He can score against anyone, and he's just one of the best goal scorers of all time. He's a bit of a nostalgia pick, but even then, nostalgia can be a good thing, And of course, he rewarded owners with 13 points in game week 4, and even had the second highest expected goals of the week. So definitely someone to look out for, and I would have him in right now. And you can always move him on to Lukaku if you don't want to have both of them in together at the same time. And of course, Chelsea's fixtures turn for the better from game week 7 onwards, and it's a nice switch, going for Ronaldo for a couple of weeks, then Lukaku maybe for 5 to 7 game weeks, and then back to Ronaldo when Man United have an exceptional run from game week 14-15 onwards. It's an absolutely exceptional run that they have for a long period of time. We're talking about months here. And then looking at the other 2 strikers, a lot of people are going off Antonio because he's suspended, and also Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and I completely understand that. And I always say this, Bamford and Jimenez, they're 2 standout replacements for them around the same price range. And of course, if you can't go to Lukaku, then the next best thing I think is getting Bamford and Jimenez. Jimenez hasn't scored yet. It's been very I'd say, frustrating and unlucky for his owners, but I think the goals will come. Maybe not to the kind of volume he was doing in years gone by before his head injury, but he can still do really well, of course, and hopefully he gets back to goal scoring form. He's a really good player, and he's got great fixtures, obviously, up until game week 14, and having 2, maybe 3 Wolves players is a good option. I think 2 is the sweet spot, getting a defender and maybe a midfielder or attacker. So whether it's Traore, Trincao, who's been looking really good, or Jimenez, it's up to you. I would rather have Jimenez out of those 3, and I think there's just a lot more options in the midfield that you can go without Traore or Trincao, and you can just go for Jimenez, where there's probably a few, I'd say less options at this moment in time up front because of Calvert-Lewin being injured for a few weeks potentially, and obviously Antonio's suspension. And then lastly, we've got Patrick Bamford, of course. Once again, you can go for him and Rafinha, but maybe what I would advise is going just for one of them for the time being. Wait and see how Leeds do during this great fixture run, and then maybe jump on the other one who you don't have already. So of course you can go for Rafinha instead of Torres, like I discussed earlier, but if not, you can just go for Bamford, to be honest, and he's a great choice. Obviously he hasn't been doing it this season, and I don't expect him to match his amazing points tally from last season, but I still would expect a bit of a kind of comeback and a resurgence, I'd say, for Leeds. I think they're going to improve, not by too much, but they've got the fixtures, and I think they'll score more goals, probably still concede quite a few as well, but the results will come. I think they'll go up the table slightly, and it should be good. But Bamford is a great choice. Now, one key question people ask me is, should I get Bamford or Jimenez, especially to replace Calvert-Lewin, maybe Wilson or Antonio? And if you had to pick one, I personally would slightly edge towards Bamford. Of course, if you already have Rafinha, you can always just go for Jimenez and then kind of balance it that way. But if that's not an issue and you just want one of them, I would prefer Bamford, although he is a bit more expensive. I think he's obviously shown a bit more this season in terms of actual goal output. Jimenez has had better underlying stats, and Wolves have too. But I just think that Leeds have the fixture on right now to improve greatly. And to be honest, both Leeds and Wolves have had very tough fixtures recently, so we haven't seen the best of both of their teams and their respective strikers. So they're both really good. They both offer great value, and I think they'll come good. They'll offer more points than they have been doing so far. But at this moment in time, I would slightly edge towards Bamford if you have enough money. But there's no right or wrong answer. You can always go for Jimenez and then just get Rafinha in midfield, and I think you're covered pretty well there. So that's the best Game Week 5 wildcard team you can make. Let me know what you think, and of course, there's always different ways you can go about it. The one alternative I'm going to be talking about right now is getting Romelu Lukaku in there. But unfortunately, what that means is downgrading Ferran Torres. We'll probably go back to Rafinha there. Then we'll have to get a 4.5 million striker. Probably let's get rid of Jimenez there and then get Lukaku in. So I'll show you right now on screen. You can just go for this. And to be honest, this is the thing. If you want to have Lukaku and Ronaldo and Salah and Trent, it's just really difficult to find a balanced team, and I think you're going to have a bit less flexibility looking at your team overall. So if you look here, we've got Rafinha in here. Of course, I think he offers great value. He hasn't been doing as well as we would have expected beforehand, but here we go. 4.6 million remaining with the transfer budget I have, the squad value, and then we'll just go for a 4.5 million striker. We'll just go for Scarlett from Spurs. And there we go. So that would be the team with Lukaku. And instead of Reece James, for example, you can always go for Marcos Alonso, or if not Rudiger, like I said. I would expect a bit more kind of rotation from the left backs in the weeks to come. I think Reece James might be slightly more nailed than Alonso. But then again, Alonso's been playing every single week and he's been doing so well. He's the highest scoring FPL defender, of course, and he's doing extremely well. And yeah, it's him and Trent really just at the top doing the business. And yeah, other than that, I mean, obviously Sarr, Traore, they can come in for Rafinha. You can even still go for Gallagher instead of Gray, but I think with the fixtures coming up, you might as well go for Gray now and then go for Gallagher later on in the future. And of course, if you have a bit more money, maybe instead of Marcel, you can go for Semedo or Saiss. Saiss is really good when he continues to start, and he offers so much attacking threat. And once he scores, of course, he's got a great chance of being in and amongst the bonus points. And you can always go for Duffy instead of White, as I said before. If you have even more money to spare, maybe Jose Sarr instead of Sanchez. Obviously, some tough fixtures coming up for Brighton, including Leicester in Game Week 5. And there's always Greenwood and Torres instead of Jota. You can do that as well. But ultimately, if you're asking me, I would rather have 3 strikers rather than 2. And there is a way, of course, to have Lukaku, Ronaldo, and let's say an Antonio when he's back from suspension, or Bamford. The problem is that you're probably going to be down to 3 good midfielders. The others could be 2 4.5 million options. And in defense, you might sometimes be struggling to find a bit of squad depth there. But let me know what you think. And of course, it'd be great to have Lukaku and Ronaldo in the same team, as well as Salah and all these other good options. But it's very difficult to find a balanced team overall that will give you good squad depth and just make you a really strong team going into the medium to long term. But thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new around here. And of course, once again, I have to keep on saying it. I know I sound like a broken record. Thank you so much for helping me reach 5,000 subscribers and 500 followers on Twitter. And a massive shout out to the 2 new channel members, Rodrigo Arias and also Rock and Roll. Really appreciate it. And same with all the super chats you lot have sent over the last few live streams. Really appreciate it. You don't have to do that. And of course, I obviously very thankful for the gesture, and all the very best of luck for FPL in Game Week 5, and same with the rest of the season and in UCL Fantasy if any of you are playing that. And of course, there's going to be more content for that fantasy football format to come as well. But good luck, enjoy the football, and I'll see you next time.